Welcome to Retro Upgrade. Today we'll be looking at a new method of bringing your 2D images to 3D. There is a new AI made that can do this quite easily actually. My friend broke his Guybrush figure I made for him a few years ago, so he wanted a new one, but he also asked for a figure of Fry from Futurama. But I checked around, I couldn't find any good ones. They're decent, don't get me wrong, they take a lot of work to do, especially if you have to model them from scratch, and he wanted this one specifically, the one that says shut up and take my money. But I thought this one was kind of ugly, so no disrespect to the one that made it, but it doesn't look like the character in the show. So I thought, hey, why not give it a try with the new AI thing that came out a few days ago. I just need a good image. Here's an image without text on it. There are a few 3D models made. You can see them in the background there, but they cost money, most of them. So I wouldn't use pre-made ones anymore. So if you go to Hugging Face, I know it sounds silly, but it's where you can find all the new models, and you have to search for Hunyuan 3D 2.0. So that's the new model that can convert. You go into Spaces first, so you can get a free trial, and you can run this a few times a day without any issues. You just upload your image. You can make a textured version of this image or a grayscale. I'm going to do a grayscale to hurry that up. The problem is with flat images like this, 2D images in this case, it removes the background by itself, so you don't need to worry about that. But the problem is it doesn't really become 3D. It looks more like a flattened version of it. So you can see here, it's not really correct, but it's a decent start. So this would actually been really good already to put into a program like Blender and fix it up. But instead you can do something like this. So you can use Krita, that's a free Photoshop copy-ish, and there is an AI plugin I use. So it uses your graphics card. You need about 4 GB of VRAM at least to use this. You can also do this online on free sites, but I use my local installation. I'll show you later how you install this locally. It's pretty easy. So I'm using a custom server. You will not be doing that if you install it yourself. It's because I have so many models, they take up so much space that it's beneficial for me to do so. But otherwise you have the local model, local mode server, so it downloads everything for you. You don't need to do anything special to get it to work. I had to do a lot of faffing around to get this to work with my custom server, but that gives me some flexibility you won't need as a beginner. I'm just waiting for it to hook up to the server. Now it's done. You should use the one up there, but I'll go over that in a minute or so. Okay, so let's go and see what we can do. So this is a 2D image. So I'll give it a quick prompt of 3D render Fry from Futurama. Just give it a little bit of context that it's holding money, so it knows what it's trying to replicate. There is a negative prompt as well, the one in red below. There you type what it is, what you don't want in the image. So cartoon, 2D, bad quality could be one of them. Realistic if you want a 3D render. Now you have a slider underneath that says strength. If you leave it at 100%, it changes the image entirely. But if you go down to 40-50%, you get something very similar, but it's following the prompt you gave it. So this will be an iterative task. So normally I try to get a good quality base and then copy that base and do it again and again. So you can see it just changed the color a bit in one of them, and some of them look weird. So I increased the strength a bit. Then it's getting to 3D. You can see it gives some depth to the image. So I noticed it tried to make glasses for most of these. So I added glasses in the prompt as well, in the negative prompt, to remove the glasses. And these are starting to look decent. And they have a depth the original image is missing. So you just iterate until you find a good setting. And if you, for example, I added this image here and I made another run with the other base image, the new one, and you get a little more 3D. I'm switching between them to see exactly the difference, and this is probably good enough. So this took like 7 tries because it does 5 or 6 images at once. I put in the new image that's more 3D, and it comes out surprisingly well, actually. It takes about 50 seconds to get. I was able to make about 25 before the server complained that it's there's a queue. Okay, so this works well. It looks like the character. Unfortunately, he has eyelashes because the image did. So you can either fix that in Blender afterwards or any 3D program, or you can just remove them in the actual image. So that's what I'm going to do. I just pick the color of the background and then use the brush tool just to remove the eyelashes. He doesn't have eyelashes, so and then I copied it again with the eyelashes removed, add it again, just run it once more, and it looks a lot better. As you can see, it's not the best quality mesh, but you get a full mesh and you can download it directly on the page as well. You can actually run the Hunyuan 3D model on your own hardware. You don't need the website really. It's a little hard to install. There are a few guides online, but you can do it. You probably need a quite decent graphics card. I would guess 16 gigabytes and up. So if you don't have that, this website is a good alternative, even for creating the images I used for 3D generation. So I'll try to just pull it into my 3D printer software here, and it works. The problem is it didn't generate a flat base, obviously, so it will tip over if I print it this way, and it will need extra supports underneath. Every place there is a red underneath, it means it needs supports, pretty much. So I'm just checking to see exactly how much I need to do to fix it. I tried to minimize the supports, but it actually got worse. So, oh well. I'm using the slicer here. So with 3D printing, it depends on what nozzle you use, what size, and how tall of layer heights you have and stuff. You can see the striations, the lines. It's pretty good at this size. It gives decent quality. The blue things you see are the supports. I'm using 3 supports. They work quite well for organic shapes. If you are doing very square shapes, use the normal square type supports, but these work quite well for these kinds of things. Okay, time to download Blender. So I probably have it installed already. I usually update this quite a lot. This is a full 3D package ready to go, has all the features. Actually, the 2D to 3D thing can be run inside Blender as a plugin. I didn't do it this time because I wanted to show a way for people to do it without installing Blender, because you don't need to install Blender and edit stuff. And for Krita, you just go to Krita's webpage, download the version, then you search for Krita AI, and you will get a GitHub repository. You go to the latest releases, just download the newest one, the zip file to be more specific. They have the source code there as well, that's why. And in Krita, you can actually add this quite easily as a plugin, so you get the AI functionality. So you go into scripts, I think, or tools. It was tools. It's hard to remember. I don't do this a lot. So under tools, you have import a Python file from file. So there you go, and you just choose the zip file. You don't even need to unzip it or anything. You just choose the zip file. You restart Krita, and you have the AI active. In this case, you will go into configuration and choose the local install instead. You click local, then you just select everything pretty much. It will download all the models, all the configurations and everything, so you can do this without actually running your own server. It actually does run your own server, but locally for this app. You can also choose different kinds of graphics cards, and you have the install button underneath there. Now a quick word for my sponsor, PCBWay. As a matter of fact, we're talking about 3D printers, so let's check out their options. They have quite a few options for 3D printing. They also have some really nice goodies at the store right now. There are some hot plates and oscilloscopes, and they also have community projects here to buy. So if you don't want to design your own, you can buy an already made one. Okay, thank you PCBWay for sponsoring this video. Now back to the video. Okay, so I'm opening Blender now. So the reason I'm opening Blender is I want to fix the mesh so it stands up by its own, because my friend wanted to have it on his desk. So the first thing I do is remove the standard cube that comes from the project and the camera, because I won't need them. I just drag and drop the file. Don't change anything pretty much. And this is actually decent already. So you use the navigation tools. If you are accustomed to 3D programs like Fusion or let's say 3D Studio Max, it's the same here. You can actually configure it to work exactly the same if you want. You use the cross on the top right to select the different angles and stuff. I put it from a front view just now because I saw it was angled a little to the left. You have the vertex view here, so you can see all the faces and vertices, or wireframe if you want to call it that. And it's quite dense, but as you can see if you go closer, there's a way to do this that has nice topology. So topology is with the point placement, so it looks more uniform. But that doesn't really matter for 3D prints, because the 3D printer will just follow the perimeter pretty much. Okay, so go to object mode, and you have edit mode there. And then you also have the sculpt tool we can use. First off, I want to fix the mesh, so I can get a higher polygon count, so I can actually work on the mesh. But there are some small holes in the mesh I want to fix. So the first thing you have to do is go into face mode. On the top left, you can click point, line, or face. I'm using face right now. So I found a hole that could be problematic for the 3D printer. This one right here on the actual money. So the thing I do, there is an easier way to do this, of course, but I'm not very good at Blender. I don't use it enough. So I'm using just shift click and shift select. And just select the faces and then delete key and then choose face pretty much. You get a drop down when you press the delete key. And you just go through that, and then you select line tool or line selection, and alt click on the line where the hole is, and then right click and fill. So you can fill a lot of holes. Sometimes meshes have holes, like this one. You can see the hole here. There's a hole all around there. Even if it's hard to see, there is a hole in there. So alt click there, but you see the deformity it has. So make sure you remove any extra geometry that's in the way, pretty much. So I did that, and alt clicked again, and now it looks better, and then fill. So this is fixed, pretty much. There is another hole, but that one won't be problematic because it's in between two. From my experience, I know when it's problematic or not, but usually you don't need to worry too much. Now, to prepare the mesh for sculpting, you need more triangles to work with. So you can go to modifiers on the right here, add modifier. Then you have an option for remesh. So you can see it right here. This looks like shit. If you use the slider here and reduce the size of the voxels, you get actually a better image than you had before. But also it comes at a cost of a lot of triangles, and that means a lot of processing has to occur. This is still decent enough and works quite well with low-end graphics cards. So you should be able to do this on anything, pretty much. But if you go a lot higher than that, you will run into some latency problems. Now choose sculpt mode. And then just a brush. I usually use the draw brush. So I can just draw on it, so it inflates the actual drawing. So I wanted to fix the hand. You can see here it's like indented. So if you hold shift while you draw, I'm drawing with the mouse this time. If you hold shift and click, left click, you smooth out the thing you're passing over. So, and then you can also use all the other brushes. There are a lot of brushes here that can make it good. You have to keep in mind this 3D print will be quite small, and a lot of details will be lost in the resizing, pretty much. If you're going to print this large, this is important to do this step. But if you're going to do it as small as I did, about 5 centimeters tall, you won't see these things you did. So I'm smoothing, I'm pressing with the crease brush to define the hand and stuff, just to make it more defined. But actually this was pretty much useless for the size I printed it in the end. You can also use this technique to do 3D models for games and stuff. So I wouldn't say this is wasted time. It's just that in some cases you won't see the effort you put in, so it's not worth it. So this looks decent. I also did some changes to the neck just to make it pop a bit. And I tried to do the eyelids, didn't work out, so I skipped that part on the video. Then go back to object mode. And we need to reduce the quality now, back again. But I first want to put on a base. So I pressed add and then a cylinder. Just scale it in one direction. I want a flat disk underneath, like a base. Then move it around until it's probably centered. As long as the base is big enough, it will not let it tip over. Also, I wanted the hand that's missing going into the base. So it's not really inside yet. It has to go down a bit. So the choosing the mesh you made for the character, you can add a new modifier, and it's called a decimate modifier. This one is really hard on the hardware. So this is real time and it's chugging along, and it takes a while to drag that slider. As you can see, it removes detail, but tries to keep the general shape as well as it can. This is not 100% necessary, but it will help your 3D printer out when you're doing the slicing, so it doesn't take forever, because the more polygons, the more calculations and stuff. The 3D printer itself doesn't do the job, it's the actual application that does the calculations. Now for the base, I do a remesh, so it gets more detail. So you can see here in wireframe mode, you can you don't need to match the density of the character, but it would be good. There, yeah, should be enough. The more points, the rounder the bottom is, of course. But these are two separate things, so they don't count as one. So what you want to do in this case is select the main one, that's the character, add, and then you have Boolean operation. Don't forget, you first select the object you want to merge with, and don't forget to change to union if you want to merge it. Now it looks weird, and that's because the cylinder is copied itself. So the two cylinders are occupying the same space. That's why it looks like that. So if I move this out of the way, you can see the other cylinder. So what you do is you go to the menu on top and just select the cylinder and press delete. And now you're actually done, really. So you can export it. So I did a mistake, even if I've done this 100 times, pressing the save as button, but you only can save as a Blender file. So you have to press the export button. You have a few options here. 3MF, STL, and OBJ files all work for 3D printing. So go ahead and choose which one you like. Doesn't really matter. If you have an older 3D printer, it might only take STL files. So it's important to know what works or not. And just save it in a place you can find it. It did orientate it weirdly. I used OBJ file. I scaled it down a bit. I sliced it up, so just to check the quality. And this was too small. You can see the lines quite clearly. I have a 0.3 layer height, and that's not really good. I have a 0.6 millimeter nozzle. That's actually quite large for high detail. So I scaled it up a bit, and that seems to look nice, but the top and of the surfaces look weird. So I'm going to use layer height modifier. There's a special layer height modifier that's under experimental. So you just search for layer height in Cura, and then you have experimental, and you have it's dynamic layer height or something like that. And this puts more layers where it needs it, and less dense layers where it doesn't need it. You can fiddle around with the numbers, so I changed to 0.2 and 0.01. That seemed to work. If you look at his clothes and on the top of the arms, you don't see that green stuff a lot anymore. That's because it added thinner layers there where it needed to. It's increased the print time quite a lot, from 1 hour 20 to 1 hour 54. That's the only issue with 3D printing in my eyes. It's that it takes forever to 3D print. Here you can see how it's going to print the entire thing. I don't see any issues actually for the print run. So time to make it print. I got it down to 51 minutes. It's quite a small figure. So I didn't film the entire printing process because of laziness, I guess, because I have to keep an eye on it otherwise. Here's the finished product. This is small, and this is not a large model by any means. But now comes the cleanup. With stuff like this, the fin parts, the money, let's say, it's really easy to break off his fingers and or his hand. So you have to be really careful. I have some delamination at the bottom on the base. You see the layers are not really nice, but that's my fault. I chose the wrong settings. Okay, that's everything for today. Hope you liked the video. See you soon. Bye.